Tomorrow night, you ask for it, visits Pearl Harbor. And for exciting adventure, don't miss Maverick, both on ABC Television Network.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Time again for another Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. I'm always happy to talk to my buddy Christopher Irving, who is this incredible chronicler of, you correct my English because, of course, he's an academic, but fantastic looks at pop culture history, specifically comic books. Worked with our dear friend who's no longer with us, Seth Kushner, on a wonderful book. Chris, remind me that your book with Seth that is so great.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I mean, it was so long ago at this point. It does, but it feels like yesterday. We were literally on top of. I told you the Flatiron building, right? The story about that. We got on the roof.
Tell the story, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, and but no, I'm very proud of that work. It just, on one hand, it feels like yesterday, but on the other, it was 15 years ago, which is really hard to believe. Yeah.
What was the title? Because I'm sure.
Lifting Tall Buildings: The Origins of American Comics, and it was it was kind of had crowdfunding existed, we would have been able to crowdfund it and it would have been perfect. As it is, we worked with a publisher who I don't think really knew what they were doing with our book, or really knew what to do with it, which is kind of typically the story when we write about comics. I did collect all of the essays that I wrote, however, into a book that I think it was about 600 plus pages. It was about 94, 95 creators that I talked to, and Seth photographed even more because we had some folks who didn't make it in. But yeah, that was a time, man. That was a really exciting time.
So are you gonna put out? I mean, again, 600 pages. Good Lord,
It's out. Yeah.
Oh, it's out. So
yeah,
so
let me grab a copy real quick. Excuse me for 1 second.
Sorry, I didn't have an image of it.
Yeah, so I crowdfunded this last year. And it's you can go to graphicnyc.com because I actually got the URL. It was not available when we did the website. That's why it was NYC Graphic Novelists.
Hold up the cover again, buddy.
Yeah, sure thing.
So Graphic NYC, the essay collection for the audio audience. And that's great, man. No, Chris Irving, Seth Kushner. My God. I mean, literally running the gamut of Golden Age creators that were still with us to the modern day of 15 years ago, which is still very relevant. And God, I'm so glad. Chris, 80 Kickstarters. That is insanely great. And that's wonderful. And we'll talk about the mechanics of crowdfunding as well. But, I do want to obviously immediately talk about your new project that is coming up, dropping soon. And that's Joe Unknown. Now, is this the Robbie Rodriguez cover?
This is a detail from the Robbie Rodriguez cover, which I still cannot believe I got, and I have to add a major shout out to Dennis Kitchen, who gave me a hand-drawn logo. He sent me 3 logos. That's when I picked. Yeah, Dennis. So I'm currently doing a project called Creatures Out of the Subconscious. I think I'm getting the title right, with Dennis. It's a trading card set. and
Cool.
that funded about a month ago, and it's in
Congrats.
production. And Dennis, just his hand-drawn logos blew me away, and it was like, Dennis, this comic is kind of, you know, a bit of an homage to the 50s horror comics. And I don't want, I think my biggest gripe about logo design is when a publisher tries to do something that emanates, kind of not emanates, but emulates like the 1950s. The design is just too perfect. The treatment is the fonts and so forth, and it doesn't look like a human hand wrote it or drew it or designed it. And so that's what I got with this, and I'm very happy. But yeah, Robbie, I was in the green room at one of the Galaxy Cons I moderate for, and I was talking about that. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna crowdfund this project, and I do need to line up a cover. And Robbie's just like, I'll do it for you, man. And I'm like, what? Okay.
How is his health?
Pardon?
How is his health? I know he was having issues, right, with his eyesight.
Robbie's been fine when I've talked to him. So
okay.
Yeah, he sent me the cover on Father's Day, which
nice.
Yeah, I don't think that was intentional, but I got it. And yeah, so Joe Unknown is drawn by my good friend and Kubert School graduate, Nick Justice. We actually kind of grew up together. And we both have kids around the same age, and it's going to be very cool. It's 3 issues. I spent a good year writing them, as if this is the only comic book, because I haven't done a comic book proper in like 2 decades. And I was just like, look, if this is the only comic book I do, it's got to be that good. Like I can't have it be okay. It's got to be like,
Chris, I was telling you about a secret project that I am working on, and I am very pleased that my collaborator is tolerant of my, no, I popped a P there. We got to clean that up, man. I got to do it again, or, you know, or other, being a broadcaster, GMS, gross mouth sounds, we used to call it, as far as doing stuff. And I learned a trick. Everyone should know this. I'm happy to share trade secrets. But Maria, who played Hawkgirl on Justice League, did something with my collaborator, and was told by Maria that apple juice is, as opposed to having water next to you, because the acidity will dry your, will wet your whistle, but also dry your palate, so you're not making any gross mouth sounds. So there's a little tip for all you youngsters out there.
Yeah, I know Orson Welles would have pineapple juice. That was his
I had no idea.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm very excited. Nick is a good friend. He's a hell of an artist.
I've got some art that he put some pages up on his Facebook page.
Please do.
So, and here you go, everybody. So this is really a great example of the kind of story that Nick and Chris are telling. Give us the gist of Joe Unknown.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much. It's basically what happens to a horror comics host behind the panels, and where is he, and does he have to worry about death, and does he have to worry about what comes next?
Okay, and that image, this fake cover, is a great example. So Joe is like the Crypt Keeper or some of the other hosts.
Yeah, so Joe is he is an old pulp writer who he's in a way inspired by I think today was his birthday, Joe Gill, the head writer of Charlton.
Yes.
And I became really friendly with him.
Wow.
When I did the comic book artist Charlton issues. And Joe was an old pulp writer. He kind of came up with Mickey Spillane, and he taught me everything about just kind of sitting your ass down and just writing whatever. And so I really kind of looked a little bit to Mr. Gill, who I miss. I really miss him, actually. He was a fun, funny, brilliant guy.
Am I right that, if I may, am I right that he was by day Is he the one that was a cop by day and then just cranking out stories at night?
No.
Because
No, that was, I want to say that was Peter Morrissey, but I'm probably wrong.
yeah, it was Pete Morrissey. You're absolutely right. Yes.
So
But
Gill
was
the head writer of Charlton.
Yeah, and truly, my God, I mean, we always talk about how Stan Lee wrote like 10,000 comics. I think Mr. Gill was like right up there with them because he really was writing the majority of Charlton.
Yeah, the thing was they paid crap, but they paid right away. You didn't have to wait for publication, and it was as much work as you wanted. The thing with Joe, he suffered with alcoholism, and I remember back in I married very young, and it didn't last very long. One day she was like, "I feel like you love your comics more than me," and I was like, "Yeah, I knew what you were getting into."
There's forgive me for the quick interruption,
Please.
But there's a comic book store in Chicago, Challengers, and it's like for Valentine's Day, and I'm going to screw it up, but essentially their sell line for Valentine's Day is, "I love you, but I love my comics more." So
no, it was an issue of comic book artist I had on the coffee table, and we had just won like Eisner Awards and stuff, and I'm just Anyways, but Joe laughed over the phone. And I'm like, "What's so funny?" He's like, "I didn't get married till I was 38. And I was like, 38? He's like, "Yeah, I was drunk the first 37 years of my life." Yeah. And he laughed about it. But he laughed about a lot of things, but he was someone who grew up with a lot of tragedy and a lot of pain. And just the way he kept going. Anyways, he was my hero, and he was a good, dear friend. And so he kind of worked his way into Unknown's DNA. So it feels like a 1950s comic, but as you go into it, it becomes something a little bit more.
And Nick's art has got that great underground feel too. I mean, so it's kind of great that Dennis Kitchen helped you with the logo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, Did he help
you
with this logo here for the
no, that was all Nick. That one was all Nick.
Amazing.
And Nick is kind of a machine. He turns the pages out really well and pretty fast, actually, especially considering the amount of detail and everything. He's a real workhorse, and he's a hell of an artist, and he is a good friend too, which also really helps. So first issue comes out. The Kickstarter launches in August. The pre-launch page is up. You can access it through graphicnyc.com. I've got the URL. Why not use it? And it is going to run for a month. And I'm hoping the goals. So I've already funded a number of a percentage of it for production. And so the goal is to kind of get us over the finish line. I'm hoping to fund beyond that, but it's my first time actually doing a comic book proper. So I'm not really sure what to expect. I'm not sure if my usual backers are all going to go there. I'm not sure if my Eagle Force backers who read my pulp stories will want to read one of my comic books. I hope so, because I love those guys. And I miss doing work for them to read. I'm hoping my Madman fans, the Mad Maniacs, will all go over, as well as my trading card people. So, I don't always have crossover. So I'm curious what type of crossover, if any, I will see with this one.
I hear you, man. And and I'm really glad that because I wanted to talk about all those various things. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the thing. Again, 80 Kickstarters, all different things. My buddy Franco, from Art and Franco, Tiny Titans, and
Franco Villa.
He just no. If I may, not Franco Francavilla, a different guy. This is just Franco with an exclamation point.
Just Franco. Yes.
Well, anyway, he mostly has done comics with Art Baltazar, but he honestly has done the opposite, where he's kind of experimented with a card game. He created characters for this card game, and then also made source books and graphic novels based on the characters and stuff. So he kind of did the reverse of what we're doing now. No. Yeah, and and again, but he doesn't, again, you're really killing it with the track record. So, but tell me about these Eagle Force pulp stories. What were they?
Yeah, it's been a few years ago. So I have a very good friend named Bill Murphy, and I met Bill when he was doing he was doing a Kickstarter for a line of figures called Amazing Heroes, and they were public domain superheroes, like kind of a Secret Wars style.
Love public domain superheroes. Keep going.
Oh yeah, me too. And so Ed Catto got us in touch, and
I love that. Another good friend.
Yeah,
another very good friend. Absolutely, keep going.
And so Ed got us in touch, and I helped Bill with his campaign. And I also introduced him to Mike Allred because Bill was interested in a Madman figure, and I've known Mike for a long time. And so basically, Bill kept making toys, and eventually brought back this toy line called Eagle Force, which Mego, it was one of their final toy lines. It's little army guys, but they're tiny metal figures. And so I started doing pulp stories with them. I did trading cards first and then pulp stories. And I eventually did 6 or 7 and basically created the origin for Eagle Force. I may be doing some more stuff with him. I was just at the Joe Fest in Augusta, Georgia. So now Bill is at Big Bad Toy Store. Okay. And they got me down there to announce that there is a Larry Hama action figure they're making, a 6-inch figure. And yeah, I'd introduced him to Larry a few years ago because he wanted to make like a Larry figure that's Joe scale.
Sure. Yeah.
And then Bill was like, well, can we do a 6-inch Larry? And Larry's like, yeah, sure. And they're also doing 6-inch figures of Fury Force, which is the first kind of Larry's early concept that became G.I. Joe. And my God, they're sick figures. But right now I have a lot on my plate. I have, of course, the comic book campaigns to do. If issue 1 funds, which I'm hoping and pretty confident it will, because the goal's not super high. I'm hoping to get number 2 going in probably in January. And but I have 2 book projects. There's one I can't really talk about right now, but I did just sign a contract with Rutgers to write my dissertation, because I got my PhD a year ago. So my dissertation on Superman in radio and media in the 1940s, that's becoming a book. So I've got about a year to write that. They're really flexible, but as soon as I finish this shorter book project due in October, that I'll be able to announce hopefully soon. I'm hoping they announce it by San Diego, but it's not up to me. But I'm excited for it.
That's amazing. All right, Superman on radio. We're gonna have to talk about that for a minute because I know some of the basics. That it started in 1940, I believe, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong. But also the great Bud Collyer, who you can find every now and then on not Game Show Network, Buzzer. Buzzer shows old I believe it was To Tell the Truth that he was the original host of.
I believe so, yeah.
And it's the voice of Superman. And then also in the 60s, when Filmation started, the whole idea of Saturday morning cartoons, everybody, if they weren't already existing, like the Warner Brothers stuff or the MGM Tom and Jerry's or what Columbia was making, as far as brand new for television, well, there was Crusader Rabbit and Bullwinkle and stuff. But really, the first Filmation, regardless, was the Adventures of Superman, and it was Bud Collyer, and I want to say Joan Alexander as well. Yep. And of course, they also they voice what little dialogue there is in the Fleischer cartoons as well.
Yes, they did. And so it's wow. So what I discovered in researching Superman radio within academia is many of the academic articles were wrong.
Really?
They were written by people who did not. There's one person in particular would cherry pick. Like I feel like he had a theory, and then he found like the key episodes to try and cherry pick. Oh, here's the first episode. So he would come up with this like all-encompassing media theory over media he really knows very little about. It's the type of thing where academia doesn't always understand the importance of comics history. The guy would write things, and this is someone with a PhD, that literally, like me and a handful of other people who know the old stuff, if someone came up to us claiming, oh, well, I know all about Superman, and we would kind of laugh. So I discovered that the media studies out there, for the most part, were not good. There were a few that were okay, but they didn't really consider all of the media. So I literally listening to every radio show, getting as many of the original scripts as I can, including the long lost Kryptonite first appearance. That's in there.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
wow.
I've been working with Ben at DC Comics. Ben's the historian, archivist. I love this guy. He's been such a good friend, and they found that script. But really kind of looking at that and reading all of the comics, strips up to about 1948, and then really building my theory. It's transmedia and adaptation theory. Because, it's there are many books that discuss it, but they don't have, they're more just straightforward historical, and I need to have a theoretical backing as a scholar. But I also need a theory that is built around actually knowing the media.
It's so funny. I did a panel years ago at New York Comic Con when I could do panels at New York Comic Con, and I didn't have the phrase transmedia, but essentially I wanted to show that old time radio was just as active as television was in those like late aughts and early 2010s. And I'm like, yeah, Archie, 10 years on the radio. And also was pointing out things like the Martin and Lewis movie, Artists and Models, that, spent a minute on a parody of the Wortham investigations, or the hearings that were happening because of seduction of the innocents. And it's like, hey, guess what? Even D. Martin and Jerry Lewis were making fun of, kids that are affected by violence in comics and stuff, because they're in Artists and Models. Jerry's a writer and Dean's an artist. And then we got the beautiful Dorothy Malone and a very young but fantastic, Shirley MacLaine in it as well. And she's a model, and she's modeling it for a comic book called The Bat Lady. And so,
I really need to watch this film. I've heard about it, but
yeah. Well, and honestly, I think in the last couple of years they finally put it on a DVD box set. And Frank Tashlin was the director, and you likely know that not only was he a great film a comedy director, but he was also an animation person before he graduated to film. And so, he was the perfect guy. And there's just amazing stuff in there. It's a lot of it's really, maybe because I'm biased because of the fact that it leans so hard on 50s comics, but it really is this wonderful Martin and Lewis film that sometimes just doesn't get mentioned. But I want you to tell. You mind telling? I mean, it is kind of public knowledge. This is like when I had the guys on that made the PBS 3-part superhero documentary, and I'd want them to talk about something that like is in the documentary, but it's kind of public knowledge for a lot of us, and they're like, well, yeah, it's in the documentary, but I'd rather not talk about it. And it's like, yeah, dude, Bruce Wayne is Batman. We know, I'm like, here we know some of this stuff, but really educate people about why Kryptonite happened on the radio show.
Yeah, George Lothar, who is the writer, basically just created it in a storyline, and my understanding is they kind of had to put it back because it was radioactive, and we were on the verge of the atomic bomb, and I think it made the government uncomfortable. That's what I've heard. But whatever the case, Kryptonite, which of course was based off, I'm sorry, I should have started with the K metal from Krypton, which was the original story Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster started producing, that just like 2 to 3 years within Superman's career would have introduced Kryptonite, but also would have had Lois learning Superman and become his partner. And then, of course, that story, the theory is that George Lowther came across that at some point and adapted it to, I think it's the Meteor from Krypton. But what's so interesting about that script is it presents Krypton from a completely different perspective. It's Jor-El standing on a balcony, talking to people on Krypton about the destruction that's imminent. It's a really, really fascinating thing to read. One of the things that gets ignored in many of these kind of histories is when Superman became the Adventures of Superman, after a few years, it was a reboot. Straight reboot.
Wow.
I've seen a few articles that talk about it as if it's just one big monolithic show. But no, Adventures of Superman is a reboot. In Superman, 1940, the first show, Superman lands on Earth as an adult. He's grown. There's no Ma and Pa Kent. When it relaunched as the Adventures of Superman, we basically so the first 2 episodes are lost. But I did find a snippet of the second episode at the Paley Center up in New York. Had a digitized recording. I had to sit there and transcribe it.
Sure.
And send to Mark Wade and to Ben, because we've all been kind of teaming up on this. And it's Ma and Pa Kent finding the rocket. And so my theory working off of that is that the Adventures of Superman, of course, had him growing up in, they had Iowa was where he grew up. They later acknowledged it in, I think it was The Missing Rocket. But anyways, it was a reboot. And so that is very likely, my theory is it probably took the first script from 1940, which was only on Krypton. They probably just re-recorded that script with minor alterations, because that script was represented a few times over the years, including in television for The Adventures of Superman. Or was adapted a little bit. So that's my theory. Anyways, there's more to it,
but honestly, you'll forgive me. That's all fantastic. And I wasn't going there. What I was going for was, because of the radio show, didn't Bud Collyer, and maybe this is a myth, but didn't Bud Collyer like really want a vacation because he'd been doing it?
No, it's a myth.
Is that bullshit? Okay,
because you know what? After the big Kryptonite storyline, when it's really brought back, like he's around. I mean, Superman gets amnesia and goes around.
All right, so the myth was that he was on vacation, so they introduced Kryptonite. So all you heard was Superman supposedly groaning. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
If you listen to the episodes, he actually he actually is he's okay. There may be 1 or 2, I'm sure, in the run of the show. But my understanding is that's not the main reason.
I love it.
But again, there are episodes. Now, I will tell you, there's an episode of The Lone Ranger when one of the original actors tragically died in a car accident.
Right, and Brace Bremer took over. Right.
Yeah, they had the Ranger had been wounded, and so he was a little like, oh, Tonto.
And Tonto, and Tonto had to kind of carry the story. And
which he kind of did anyways. I mean, Tonto was really the brains. He gave him his name. He saved his ass from the Cavendish gang.
Well,
gave him his name, named the horse, for God's sake. And the whole time, Lone Ranger's like, oh, I'm glad I thought of that. And
but Brace Beamer was the original announcer. Mm-hmm. And then I want to say his first name was George. I could be wrong, but and it's the kind of thing, because just like you, Chris, I read any histories of old time radio, and also the fact that the Lone Ranger started as a radio thing, as well as the Green Hornet, by the same radio station, WXYZ, exactly, George W. Trendle, was the guy behind it, but he got Fran Stryker to do the heavy lifting of writing, kind of in that pulp tradition of the guy that I know Lester Dent was like the main Doc Savage writer, but I know the editor had a little bit of creating the character in some fashion. But anyway, regarding the Ranger, Brace Beamer really, God, once he took over, he pretty much rode the horse until the end of the radio run, and even did some records in the 60s that reprised, much like the Superman cartoons and everything. And so no, I'm so glad you mentioned the Lone Ranger stuff. But the important thing is we need more people like you that set the record straight. Nothing drives me crazier than the other people that write magazine articles and podcasters as well, and all they know is the myth. They don't know the reality.
Well, and what really pisses me off, and I've had conversations with people about this on Instagram. I'm like, don't send me this. There's some like 20-year-old insisting that all about comics history, and they're totally wrong. They're just trying this, Jack Kirby was robbed, and they're trying to do this like huge, and it's like, I mean, yeah, Kirby was robbed many times during his career, but 9 times out of 10, they're just talking out of their ass. They read it on. Okay, I had a job when I had to move back to Richmond, and this was a corporate job, and Arrow was like a relatively new show. It was a few years old.
Okay.
And when I came in, the group I was working with, there was someone who, she was like the comics person. And she didn't like me because all she did was watch the YouTube videos about the comics, about the, and I actually know the comics. And in many cases, I know the people who made the comics. But it was kind of the start of this culture where, okay, there's no, I'm going to sound like the old man here because
I know we're yelling at clouds today, but that's all right, man. Keep going.
But to get in, 9 times out of 10, you needed to be accepted by an editor. Maggie Thompson, A Comics Buyer's Guide. I can't remember the comic scene editor. He was a lovely guy. I used to handwrite letters. I wrote for them once or twice. But, you really had to kind of cut your teeth and prove yourself as a journalist. And, I started interviewing for Richmond Comics, my comic shop still, but their website back in like 97 would let me post interviews with creators. Sure. But to really like getting into print was the big thing. That's when you knew you arrived. And it's the blog and then influence, especially the influencer culture, I think is kind of the worst because there are no checks. You don't have an editor who knows better.
Like Maggie at the Buyer's Guide.
Yeah. And it just really drives me up the wall because you're getting this information out, but also, it's like I don't feel like most of these people are serious about really knowing the history. They just want to know the big, crazy, scandalous things that'll maybe get them more retweets or clicks or whatever the crazy kids are out for today. But it's really not helping something that people like you and I, like I've spent about 30 years of my life at least, studying longer, but like publishing about 30 years of my life pursuing this. It's very important to me. Comics history is discussing the old comics, discussing the creators, doing it accurately. When you don't know, say, I don't know. And really having a passion and a genuine intellectual curiosity about it.
Amen.
What drives me nuts is there's so much more available now than when I started. And I don't feel like enough people are really diving in. You can read just about any public domain Golden Age comic book online.
Yes.
You find it, dude. When I did the Blue Beetle companion, I had to have a Jerry Bale's microfiche of Mystery Men Comics #1 printed off by Lucy Caswell and then mailed to me after I send a check in.
Sure.
That's
to cover
how
the
it
cost of the
was.
I've
You
never,
know, wasn't
no,
that long
well,
ago.
my favorite myth, and it drives me crazy, and I always bring it up because the guy was not a saint, and he had a lot of shitty things about him.
Yeah.
Vinnie Coletta, and a lot of the Surface people, Vinnie Coletta, the inker.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's like the Surface. I know my Silver Age info. Or, well, he erased all those Jack Kirby lines, and what a horrible man. And it's like, well, you got to talk to people like yourself or Mike Cronenberg. Talk to Marshall Rogers before he passed away, and the Laughing Fish story that Englehart and Rogers did for Batman. Vinnie Coletta was the art director at DC, and they wanted to just, listen, these guys are taking too long. We're going to bail on the story and do something else. And Coletta fought for them and said, no, this is exceptional. You got to let these guys finish the story. That said, I also have on the record, and in fact have made a short of it, Dennis Cowan talking about how shitty Vinnie Coletta was because literally told Dennis, oh, we already have a black guy drawing here. We got a Trevor Von Eden. We don't need you. And it's like, wow. So same guy. People are complicated, and comic book history can be complicated. And truly, I'm glad you mentioned your Blue Beetle dissertation. It's important for people like you to get the record straight.
Well, but it's because they're people. Vinnie Coletta also gave Matt Baker work, the amazing black artist.
Sure.
I still think what Vinnie Coletta did, like he was the deadline inker, right? He's the guy.
Right.
If, a book needed to be done in a week. But I'll put it this way. I bought a hardcover of Kirby's Worst in Romance from Marvel. I got it at a sale. It was at a show. It was like discounted. And I finally opened it up, and God damn it, if 90% of it wasn't Coletta inks, I was like, I cannot even read a lot of Kirby with Coletta inks. Like it's so bad. Or like Fantastic Four Annual 3, the marriage of Sue and Reed, it's Coletta, and it is like really bad Coletta. I think Coletta had the ability, if he really had the time, to do some really interesting. Some of his Thor stuff was actually pretty good.
Well, and his Wonder Woman stuff, that it was him as the penciler and inker and stuff. That stuff is good. So I mean, again, that's the thing. It's like, oh no, all he did was erase Kirby lines, and it's like that's enough. That's chapter 1, if even that.
People are the same way about Jim Shooter. I mean, I got to know Jim pretty well towards the end because he, I would moderate for a lot of Galaxy Cons, and Jim was a regular guest.
Sure.
And he was a complicated person. He very much had his perspective on things. And I'm sure he deserves a lot of the blame and criticism he gets, but he also deserves a lot of credit. I firmly believe we wouldn't be where we are today had Jim not swooped in and he really did straighten Marvel out. He got the trains running on time. He was saving the company money so they could make a profit. He was bringing, as I understand it, he was bringing all of the comics under central editorial, because some kind of more freelance editors took books with them when they left. And I mean, he really cleaned Marvel up a lot.
Yeah. It's like a sergeant, because a lot of writers were allowed to almost be their own editors. Until forgive me. I know you know this stuff, but I mean, I'm, just so I can participate as well. I'll throw in the.
Are you saying I talk a lot? What do you think, Joe?
Chris, honestly, I always apologize to my friends. I had a doctor's appointment today, and I was just running off, and I'm like, Doc, you got to understand, I host a podcast, so sometimes I feel like I got to do the heavy lifting. I'm like, I apologize, but anyway, you're right. Again, complicated guy, and also a young guy. I was a manager of a department at my radio station when I was like around Jim Shooter's age as well. And it's like, oh, I'm in charge. All right, fine. Well, then no, you don't get to do it this way. You got to do it that way. And he legitimately pissed off guys like Gene Colan, who went across the street to DC and did amazing 80s stuff with DC because he hated Shooter. So yeah, she had his enemies. He also had his people. I just had, as I was telling you off the air, I just had Frank Miller on. And the reason why he got Daredevil is he went to Shooter and said,
Yep.
I can do this. Let me do this. And so, yeah, for every good thing that he did, yeah, there's some bad things. But again, people, like you said, complicated people. Yes.
Yeah, I just did. It's not coming out until I think next June, but I did a biography of Archie Goodwin for Comic Book Creator.
Wow, good for you, man. For who?
And Comic Book Creator magazine. And John Cook, the editor, was one of my mentors because I came in on Comic Book Ernst as a punk kid who basically wanted to start doing essays in CBA, and John was open. And of course, I had my plate was full a few months ago, and John, emailed me. He's like, "Hey, Irving, I got this Archie Goodwin article I need done. Come on, Ace, you want to do it?" I'm like, damn it! I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth, but I can't. I've wanted to write this piece for 20 years. John's going to contribute as well, but yeah, I was talking to a lot of people, even around, of course, Epic and Marvel and the Shooter era, and
of course,
but Archie is him and maybe Mark Grunwald. I'd say Walter, of course. Walter kind of falls in there as well, but you never heard a bad thing about Archie. Everyone loved Archie.
Yes,
everyone.
Yes,
and it's just like, wow. I mean, if I can leave that behind when I'm gone, I will be a very, very blessed person.
That's so great, man. Because yeah, all the Bronze Age guys that I know that worked with him adore him, and then even guys like Dan Brereton, got Thrill Killer, I think it was called.
Yeah,
I think they would shake it.
I should have talked to Dan. Yeah, I kept getting this just big pile of people who wanted to talk about Archie, and
sure.
I got Chuck Kim, got Jeff Loeb,
excellent,
Mark Girello,
wonderful.
Mark's amazing. I've been a fan of his stuff for years.
Me too, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really delightful piece. But I have a book on I want to say. Sorry, it's been a long day.
No.
I have another book coming out from Tomorrow's pretty soon.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I don't know if I can announce it yet. I mean,
okay, well, that's great. I am a big proponent of Tomorrow's. Of course, our friend Ed Cato is killing it with Retro Fan. And,
I did an article for him. Yeah,
but Back Issue is wonderful, and Alter Ego, Roy's book is great. And John, of course, John started Comic Book Artist with Tomorrow's. Is it still with Tomorrow's, or?
Well, it's Comic Book Creator, and the thing with Creator is when it started a few years ago, I think it was very a little bit more. It was more like format wise, like CBA had been, and John has really the last maybe year and a half turned it into this really cool, he touches on underground and so forth, underground creators, and
yes,
did a big thing with Dennis Kitchen actually, I mean, it's a really great mag. And then Ed had asked me if I wanted to do something on Michael J. Fox movies, and I was just like, I don't have the bandwidth. But I did it, and it was fun. And then Ed's offered me another piece. He's like, but we have a lot of time for it. We're flexible in word count, and it was for a movie. I'm just like, damn it, I can't turn this down. I can't. But so the book I am doing, it's I'm helping with it really. It's a biography of Don Newton.
Of course.
that Jay Wilson, who's a friend of Don's, wrote years ago, and
Wow.
Jay just needed some help with it, and John Morrow kind of asked me if I wanted to pitch in and edit it, and I came in and did some writing on it, but it's really Jay's. Like, I insisted the cover needs to refer to me as with Christopher Irving, not and Chris, because it's the book that Jay really wanted to write for his dear friend. And I'm very, very happy and excited and proud of the work that I did on that book. We're going to start Rich is going to start laying it out soon. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. I love John Morrow. I miss going to I will not be at San Diego this year, but I would always make a beeline to the Tomorrow's booth and grab a stack of magazines that weren't on the newsstands yet. And that would be my flight reading, because it's a 4-hour trip back to Chicago from San Diego.
Oh, it's a short flight for me.
Well, and I respect that, but he's great. And of course, listen, when podcasting was brand new, Tomorrow's did the podcast companion with Eric Houston, and I am chapter 2 in that book. And that is incredibly kind that he saw this new thing. Listen, Chris, you do the heavy lifting. I would say we got our surface kids that we're yelling at through the clouds, and then we got the hardliners like yourself, and then you got Jimmy Jerkoff with his podcast and everything. I mean, let's be honest. You're very kind to like put me in the same category, but truly, I read things that you guys write, and it was through the example of Tomorrow's and Fantagraphics with Amazing Heroes, and it was those magazines that inspired Word Balloon. And again, I'm a broadcaster, man. I do an hour conversation or whatever. So I'm content with what I am putting out there, but I am very happy to have rumors dispelled and myths dispelled by the people that are really doing the heavy lifting and stuff. And truly, I keep saying this, since the 90s, every fart has been documented, and politicians can't get away with saying things because there's tape. But really, it's that early and mid 20th century where there's still holes. And that's when we need people like you.
You know what's
that
amazing?
Are going through the microfiche.
What's amazing to me, I've still got like binders of Victor Fox documentation. I've got like 7 2-inch binders worth. And I keep finding stuff. Court records, bankruptcy records. I mean, dude, it is insane how many things are now accessible because we're able to find out where they are in the first place, right? A lot of it's like National Archives has done so much. So we're in a position where we've lost the verbal side of the history because we've lost those creators, right?
Yes.
Within a couple of years of one another, I lost Joe Sinnott, who was like a grandfather to me. He's the first person I called when we found out we were pregnant with Gray.
Oh, that's great, man.
He was, I really like, when Gray was 6 months old, we drove all the way up from Virginia to Saugerties, New York, because Joe really wanted to see the kid.
Aww.
He really wanted to see the baby.
That's excellent.
And we
Gray named after Gray Morrow, I'm assuming?
Yeah, actually. Well, his name it's kind of a long story, but basically Kat and I met because we both had a mutual love of The Huntress. It's kind of the running gag is, when we were first talking, she was like, "Oh yeah, I like comics." I'm like, okay.
Right.
I hear that a lot when I was dating. Like, "Oh, I love comics." And it's like, "Oh, I love the Marvel movies." I'm like, "Okay, well, you love the Marvel movies, and that's fine.
Sure it is.
Just, you don't have to like them, But then she was like, "But I really loved it when Huntress was Earth 2 Batman and Catwoman's daughter." And so the running joke was like, "Well, I guess I got to go out on a date with her now."
I had a similar situation with old time movies with a woman I used to date, where she's like, I really like and now I'm blanking the French actor that Yves Montand from the 50s and 60s. He's in Let's Make Love, Everybody, a Marilyn Monroe movie. That's one of his big movies. And I'm like, he's Montana. And being Greek, he made this movie, this wonderful foreign film that has subtitles. It's called Z, and it's all about all like political intrigue in Greece.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you ever see Z? She's like, yeah, like 6 times. I'm like, all right, sit down. I'm like,
Yeah.
you get, all right, we're talking now. All right, now I know you're legit. We're talking. And she
So-
was amazing. She loved pre-code Hollywood stuff.
Oh,
And no,
so nice.
she knew her potatoes, as they used to say back then.
I had someone in my life like that once, yeah, and it was great. But yeah, so Kat and I, went out on a date, and then I got her to meet Joe Staten, who I known for a few years, and
Wow.
basically when we found out we were going to have a kid, it was going to be Helena as a girl, and Joe.
Fantastic.
Joe was like, well, if it's a boy, name him Grayson. But also, I have a weird connection to Gray Morrow. I did an article on Gray for a comic book artist after he died. And through it, I became really good friends with Poco, who was, Gray's beautiful, lovely wife, who's kind of like a crazy aunt to me. And I'd inherited, I actually sit in Gray's old desk chair, his table chair. And I moved it. I had an original, which I moved up to another room. But yeah, so he goes by Gray in honor of Gray, who is Gray Din Morrow. But so so my son is basically named after this version of Robin, and he goes by Gray after in honor of Gray Morrow. But yeah. FF didn't reach their peak till Sinnott joined Kirby.
That's or Isham. Excuse me, Isham. But good to see you. He's a word balloon regular commenter. So
great to meet you.
I respect that. Nice observation.
And Joe, so I'll tell you about Joe. He broke his shoulder visiting Mickey Spillane. He fell on his porch in
oh my god
2000, probably 5 or so. And what Joe would do in his studio, because he was still, even retired, he was still inking Spider-Man. He would pick his arm up by the wrist and dip his pen and just kind of move it.
Wow.
And he would ink. He didn't let him. And I didn't think about it, but he must have been doing that for 15 years or something.
Jesus.
But he was, I did see a few original FF pages. Because I'd go up and visit Joe. So I'd visit him every 2 months or so. And if I brought someone new with me, one of the comics guys from Brooklyn, we'd have to drive around Saugerties, and Joe would basically point out where all his girlfriends lived growing up. It's like, oh yeah, I dated her. I'm like, Joe.
That's awesome. That's like Irwin. Mr. Hasten. Irwin Hasten was like that.
Irwin.
I loved Irwin. I loved Irwin.
So Irwin.
Real fast. Irwin Hasten, everybody. Golden Age Wildcat, big national comics artist, was wonderful. All right, Chris is getting up for the audio audience to grab something. He also did the incredible comic strip Gandhi. Oh, there you go, everybody. All right, Chris is holding up. Hold it up again. I got it now. There you go. An original Irwin Hasten Wildcat. Outstanding. My favorite character is a boxing guy. So there you go.
Irwin, I created that with Bill Finger. When I interviewed Irwin for Graphic NYC, I was sitting on a stoop half a block away from the diner he went to every morning. And I was just going to meet him out there. And I see Irwin come out of the diner. I'm reading a book. And he had a cane, and he was 90 or so. I mean, he was not young at that point.
Yes, sure.
And I look up and Irwin's right there. But he was such a ladies' man. And I was in his apartment interviewing him, and he had this drawing. I didn't recognize the style, and it was it was a handful of nude women. And they were beautiful. I mean, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I was just like, so Irwin, who did this? This is beautiful. And it's got to be a story. He's like, oh, I did that. And I'm like, well, who is this? And he looked up at me. It's like, every girl I ever loved. His eyes were big and blue.
Didn't he
I'm
release
just
that
like,
graphic? Didn't he release that graphic novel at the end where it really was this
yeah,
like tribute?
Loverboy.
to
He was,
Loverboy, exactly, man, exactly.
he
And also,
was,
he's adorable because he's like 5 feet tall. And the few times I saw him at New York Comic Con, he'd be in this literally like safari suit that like
he's an
Jungle Jim
ascot.
would have worn. And the ascot, exactly, man. He just like Steranko is always in the double-breasted suit and
Yeah.
everything.
Well,
Irwin had his
Joe,
look, adorable guy.
Irwin did a radio show back in the 40s. It was an OSS radio show.
Wow.
I'll have to look it up and send it to you. But he actually did he knew the woman who was like the writer producer, huh?
The radio drama, the OSS radio drama.
I believe it was OSS, yeah, where he he plays himself, and he's like, has to draw a Nazi camp because he's like,
wow,
and he gets kidnapped. I mean, taken hostage, and he breaks out and like steals a jeep, and, like throws grenades at.
Oh man, I gotta look for that episode. That's amazing.
I need to find it for you.
Yeah, please do, because
Irwin was amazing. He inspired Alex Toth. He was a wonderful guy, wonderful artist, and I miss him too.
That's the thing, man. I mean, Kubrick gets his accolades, and rightfully so, and a lot of the bigger guys, but it really is these other guys that were doing amazing stuff. And yeah, man, you either had to be in New York to know these guys. There was Bill Gallo, the wonderful sports newspaper cartoonist. He worked for, he did a couple commissions for, and actually Bill did, but also Irwin. There was oh my God, I don't know why I bought this new camera, and every now and then
you're like floating head in space.
I know, it's funny.
Well, the sofa makes you look like you have very broad shoulders because
it's true. Well, anyway, Irwin, I believe it was Irwin. Irwin did this combination of when Mike Tyson was in the thick of all of his court issues and stuff. He had Dondi and Tyson, and Dondi's like, hey, do you have a friend? I have a friend when I'm in trouble that I can talk to. And it was the most adorable thing. And I'm conflating because also Gallo did work for Boxing Illustrated, my editor, Bert Sugar's magazine that I contributed to, covering fights here in the Midwest. And so I saw Irwin. I'm like, man, that Dondi stuff with Mike Tyson was so good. He's like, oh yeah, that was fun. I did that for Bert. Yeah, it was a good job. Yeah. And it was just, again, just like all the different people that worked for National Lampoon that were great Bronze Age artists and stuff. Russ Heath and Neil Adams, and I don't know if Walter ever did any Lampoon stuff.
I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if he did, though. I mean, he got around.
I want to dig more into Crazy's history. The Marvel
Larry, yeah.
Well, I want to talk to Larry. I haven't done no. Kupperberg and Mike Carlin are the only guys, and I just want to again just kind of have a series of conversations.
But I want to talk to Priest.
And I want to talk to Priest.
You need to talk to Priest. I can reach out to Priest for you.
Well, Priest has been on before, and he's always kind to me at shows. I don't GalaxyCon doesn't and also I don't travel as much as I used to. Yeah. But no, Priest has always been incredibly kind.
Oh, it's all a front. He's the meanest guy. No, I'm kidding. Priest is I've gotten to know him through GalaxyCon, and it has been an absolute because I've met a lot of people, over the years. But he's one who I've been loving his work. The first time I met him was he came to heckle the Marvel panel that I was moderating, and it was Dan Slott and Peter David were on it. And Priest is just he is an absolute pleasure to speak with. But we had it at GalaxyCon Richmond. We were able to get him and Larry together, and I have a couple panels. I mean, I have the audio, but him and Larry were just they're hilarious because they finish one another's stories, So basically, Larry was, when he came in to edit Crazy, Priest was like an intern or something. He was like 17 or 18, very young. And Larry took him under his wing, and Larry advocated for Priest, and he made sure he was paid what he was worth. I think he got him benefits as well, if I'm not mistaken. And basically Priest kind of learned a lot from Larry doing Crazy. And we always think of Larry in regards to GI Joe and Wolverine and
yes,
war books, but look, Larry's funny as hell, man. He is absolutely a riot once you get him started. And so
I gotta get him on. I've only done a floor interview with him like 20 years ago.
If you can get Larry and Priest together, I've seen it. It's amazing.
That's cool.
It is amazing. They are just an absolute delight together. And but yeah, I agree with you, because I feel like Crazy deserves something. Crazy was like
it was always number 3. It was like Mad and then Cracked and then Crazy.
Yeah.
As far as, and that was my taste in the 70s. But then I saw the indica of who was working at Crazy, and I'm like, oh my God, it's all these Marvel guys. And occasionally, I had no idea about this side of their career. And it's fascinating. And Kupperberg is another guy like that did his Crazy stuff. And it's like, oh, I want to talk to these guys about that.
Yeah.
Because again, it's kind of forgotten Bronze Age comic history.
Well, but people, because it wasn't a comic book per se, it was a magazine. And
Sure.
Marvel's not reprinting it anytime soon. I know, it's weird because, we really want to see Nth Man get reprinted. And I know someone who's really trying to get the rights to do something with Nth Man, and it just couldn't. Nth Man is not going anywhere. I think it's one of the best things Larry's ever written. But yeah, anyways, Priest and Larry Hama, they're just amazing. They're so amazing. And if you can get them on, that would be great, because so many great stories to tell.
I feel like every now and it's a shame. I try to get these guys before they pass. I was very fortunate. You might know, last month I got or maybe it was 2 months ago, I guess it was May, that I got to talk to Larry Lieber. And God bless that guy, and it was Danny Fingeroff helped arrange that for me. And it was wonderful, man. It was so great. And Larry's still 94, but razor sharp.
Yeah.
And it was so great. And really, I'm like, tell me everything about Atlas Seaboard. Tell me everything.
Oh, well, I did the CBA article on that.
I loved it. I was a big fan.
One of the editors basically had a nervous breakdown where he just cut his hair off in the bathroom. I did
going down for their company. You're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, Larry. Larry was talking about how he was having panic attacks and everything.
Yeah, I've heard it was a mess. No, I did talk to Jerry Conway about Don Newton, because Jerry wrote this amazing Batman run, which I never read his and Don's run, but it's like I put it up there with Grant and Breyfogle. It's so good.
I absolutely hear you, and I agree with you. Absolutely, man. But I was very fortunate to have the conversations I had with Jerry over the years.
Well,
when he passed away, I republished all of them.
Yeah, he told me he only had a few months left, and so it was. I was grateful to get that time with him, and I was grateful to have met him before. But it's but it's part of it's the worst part of this job is that when I started, Will Eisner, Joe Kubert, Joe Sinnott, Stan Lee, Joe Simon. Joe, my gosh. Meeting Joe Simon was one of the best days of my life. I was so excited. Jules Pfeiffer. Jules Pfeiffer is the reason I'm here.
What a genius. Yeah, what a genius.
What a brilliant, lovely man he was.
Renaissance man. Could do it all. Could do it all.
He could. But there, it's just it's hard. It's hard seeing them all go. But it's also it's interesting to me because I don't know in 20 years what's it going to be like as far as this legacy system, this generational thing that's happened up until about maybe the 90s or 2000s. when comics started veering in a different direction. The industry was, less in New York and more all around.
Right. Right.
How many of the newer, younger cartoonists really have a link to people like, Walter Simonson or John Byrne or Frank Miller, or even guys who came in a little bit after, they did.
Like Jerry Ordway and people like
oh God,
that.
Ordway. Yeah. I mean, I'm
Right.
reading all of the Superman comics. I started with Man of Steel, and I'm reading all the way up to the death because I never read those before.
Fun. I used to read
Yeah.
those, absolutely. And again, I just had Carlin on a couple months ago, and
I got to talk to Carlin. Oh,
great guy. By the way, real fast regarding Newton, Isham also says here, I love the work Newton did with the Shazam family. Gone too soon. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Well, and again, Don is another guy, wonderful Bronze Age artist, amazing body of work, but doesn't immediately come to mind the way Walt Simonson and some of the other obvious Bronze Age artists do.
Well, he came in late and he died young. Yeah. I mean, really, his work on The Phantom at Charlton,
loved it.
Wow.
And didn't he also do the DC miniseries Phantom as well?
No, that was someone else.
Okay,
but
no, I've read his Phantoms. Yeah,
they're so good. And then of course, his Shazam run, and he used to cosplay as Captain Marvel. Like, he loved Shazam. And he could pull it off. He was in really good shape.
That's cool. I never thought so. That's cool.
Yeah, and so he did, like, he came up from fanzines into the industry, and I really think if he had lived, I think he died in 1984, and he had switched over. He was getting tired of Batman, and he hopped over to Infinity Incorporated. And I feel like if he had just been around before, like when things really popped around like 86 or so, I think he would have been, I really think he would have been a superstar.
Yeah, sure.
It's like his work reminds me of Neil Adams by way of Will Eisner, and
that's a good estimate.
Yeah, stunning work, and
he
was a quirky guy, as you'll find out with the book.
DC did reprint his run, didn't they, of Batman stuff or DC stuff in the last couple of years?
Batman and the Shazam work. The Shazam, I think Volume 3 is all his work, and I'm so glad I have it. Not all. I don't think all of it's on the app. No, wait. I think the hardcover is on the app. The DC Universe app is amazing.
Agreed.
I love it.
Yeah.
I wish Marvel would get it together on because their app's not as good.
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, it depends what you're looking for, but there are holes. What drove me nuts, I wanted to make, and I will still do it because of other sources, I wanted to make a little short of Larry talking about doing everything for Rawhide Kid, and literally on Marvel Unlimited there is one Lieber Rawhide Kid issue. One. That's it. Because come on, man, my God, he's one of the original guys, and he's Stan's brother, and that work was just so important. And truly, and also just his stories about how I could do whatever the hell I want because Stan was straight up with me, and it's like, listen, it's got a certain audience. You're not going to move the needle. They're going to accept anything you give them because they love the character, but this is not going to be a #1 book. It just isn't.
Yeah.
So do what you want. And he had a ball. He had a ball doing it,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also like they're not, but I feel like DC has been doing more reprints of their earlier versions. And if you get the Ultra membership, you can get the trades in the collections, including like the DC's Finest that they're putting out. Those are on there.
Yeah, the digest.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're just not the digest, but like the full, like
they're like 5x9 or whatever.
No, those are compact. The Finest are the like the Plastic Man collection they did, the Spectre collection. But what they do, and this is what I feel is a smarter move, is DC's app has a 1 month lag between coming out in comic stores in appearing on the app.
Yeah.
If the Marvel, it's 6 months. The thing is, I know with DC, because I still do buy comic books physically. I know if I read it on the app and I love it, I can then catch up with it pretty easily because I'm only one issue behind. But if I discover it on the Marvel app, if I want to get caught up with what's coming out, I have to buy like 5 to 6 issues.
Right.
At that much money, might as well buy the trade. Well, guess what? The trade's not out yet. Well, then I forget about it. That's why I don't read Thor every month. I'm reading it on the app. I love it. I love Al Ewing's work.
Al's
brilliant.
amazing. Another great guy. Absolutely.
Brilliant. But, in order for me to be at a place where I can be caught up with it and start paying $5 a month for it, I would need to spend $30 on back issues, which is just stupid. I don't have that much money. That's why I have to read some stuff off the app. So it just blows my mind that all the marketing geniuses at Disney can't figure out, like, wait a minute, we want to be able to draw people to the comic book store. And but I think also Marvel, I don't see them reprinting as much of their older stuff, which would make sense as to why it's not on there.
There's a miniseries that I was always fascinated by. I didn't buy it on the stands. They never collected it as a trade. And I want to say it was Byrne, that Lost Generation miniseries where it focused
the X-Men one.
No, not the X-Men. These were other characters that
they were 50s Atlas guys, weren't they?
Yes.
By
the way, Mr. Vasulo, Dr. Vasulo, that's doing the Atlas hardcovers, I've had him on. And that's
cool.
Because again, it's this interesting chapter of, we heard about Atlas, but they never really, they only do so much with it and everything. And it's so great that at least, and also I got to hand it to Abrams and what they're doing with Marvel Arts, because I think they also are willing to do special projects that the mainline aren't. So at least there is that flexibility. Listen, because it's Disney, and also I worry about Warner Brothers changing hands, not so much politically, but you just don't know who above the comics division in both cases is going to take over and what choices they're going to make regarding the history and this other stuff. We don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also it's more like, will they even keep publishing comics? That's been the worry ever since, as far back as I can remember.
Sure.
And what would happen to comics if like DC stopped publishing? Because really what's the actual worth in making comic books at this point? Is it IP development? Is it licensing? Are they really making enough of a profit? But we're also at this, I think it's an inflection point where, because print on demand is what it is, because crowdfunding is what it is, we're looking at a really fantastic way for new comics to come out. Almost like, I guess if we could get the distribution model there, like the 80s black and white boom, like we could have that again. And I don't know what that's going to take or if it could ever happen, but man, that would be really cool. That would be cool to see.
No, I agree, man. And that's why it's one of the reasons why I'm still doing and interested in Word Balloon, having doing it now 21 years is since 2005. I mean, now again, you win, man. You had not to worry competition, but really you've been a lot longer than me. But that said, no, it is these changes that I think are fascinating. And while we don't know what DC and Marvel are going to do, absolutely crowdfunding is really interesting. And also, unlike when we were growing up and you had Charlton and some of the other companies, they'd get the IP for the Flintstones and they'd do shitty Flintstone comics. They looked like they were on model, but the stories sucked. Yeah. Well, now we got Mark Russell doing these amazing, satires with the Flintstones, for an easy example. But also, hey, Pepos and Mark over at Mad Cave, what they're doing with Speed Racer, fucking incredible. Humanoids, all these great properties going back to the 60s up through the 80s and 90s. I mean, I always hand it to Josh Blaylock at Devil's Due, because I think he kind of started things with G.I. Joe in the early 2000s.
I know. I was there.
Did you work with Josh at all?
I did. So I did a G.I. Joe death index for him when he was starting, which basically I said, like, okay, these are guys who are dead. This is when they die. It's just a Word document. But I actually wrote a mock news website for G.I. Joe called Lens. And the premise was that Scoop was doing this new website about G.I. Joe and Cobra.
Hilarious.
And I had archival interviews. So I had like an interview with Quick Kick. I had Flint's memoir, Fight for Freedom, which was going to be serialized or excerpted. But it was basically Hasbro pulled the plug on it because I think, you'd have to ask Josh, but I think it's basically Hasbro like approved everything. But then, and it went up for like just a little while, but it had to come down because then someone in Hasbro realized, wait a minute, they have the comic book license. They don't have the web license or something stupid like that.
Sure,
like it was just like one of those things that just didn't work out. But I think, and I'm loving the current G.I. Joe and Transformers books. Mask.
Sure.
Oh my, Dan Waters is killing it on Mask already, just 2 issues in. But it also kind of, begs the question, like, well, if the audience is just dudes our age, like there's such the nostalgia thing's kind of cool and fun, but I'm curious because I know like Skybound is killing it. I'm curious how many new readers they're getting. Like,
I hear you.
That I'm genuinely like curious about that.
I'm blanking on the creator's name, but there's this guy now, and actually I'm going to interview him at Terrificon, and he does Dork, deep apostrophe orc.
Okay.
And it's kind of like Scotty Young's I Hate Fairyland. Okay. And it's this wonderful idea, and it's absolutely burning up as far as sales. And it's this younger audience that's really into it. And then also, listen, the little kid comics like Dogman and Captain Underpants and all that shit.
My kid loves it.
Yeah, man. So that's awesome. That's like when I was a little kid, it was Peanuts and those paperbacks that reprinted comic strips of not only Peanuts, but Beetle Bailey and Hagar and shit like that. And it's like, yeah. And I mean, so that's like, this is like their version and stuff. Of course, Jeff Smith and Bone. So I as much as comics are changing, thank you. Carrie, Brett Bean, everybody, of course. I'll be talking to Brett Bean at Terrificon. I'm very excited to do that. And I'm doing my research. But I knew it was alliterative and I knew it was Brett. But anyway, I'm embarrassed that I didn't remember it right away. But that's it. Yeah. And again, it's a big as John Hickman told me years ago, there's 300 comics on the shelf, and all of them are there for different reasons. Yeah. And you could put the other like the Mad Caves and the Vaults and Aftershock while it was, I don't know if they're coming back or not, but these other publishers that have come and gone, but also the ones that are staying, they're finding a way to survive. And also DC and Marvel, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. We got the rumor about Marvel and Webtoons in the last week or two.
Yeah, I mean, who even knows? But I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's like comics isn't floppies, for want of a better term. I call them single issues.
I hear you, man. And I know floppies, some people think it's derogatory, but it's like, come on, man. They're magazines. They're floppies.
I mean, I call them issues, issues, right? Single issues. But it's really just like this feeling of like, how are we going to get more people to discover that form, the periodical, or are we getting to the point where things need to shift? I will say I'm teaching a college class on vampire film right now. I'm trying to like get back into teaching, and that's another whole story. I really want to get a full-time professor gig again. That's what I'm on the lookout for, but that's a little harder to come by now. But anyways,
Understand.
a lot of my students are into Absolute Batman, the Absolute books.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is what you need to do. You need to do things like that where you're just like, you know what, we're going to take the original and we're going to make it look like we're breaking it up with a hammer.
Yes.
And they, you know, to me, the weaker Absolute books are the ones that feel like they could just be like a New 52 reboot. But the better ones are the ones like Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, where you initially look at them and are like, this doesn't look a thing like
Yes.
the character, how I picture them.
Flash.
Because at the end of the day, yeah, they're all about like the core of the character is still intact, but everything else is different.
Yeah.
So
well, that's why Marvel blew it with the new Ultimate line, and I'm so mad that they like wrapped it up, and it's like, guys, what are you doing?
But you know what? This is my. I have not read those books, but to me, I understand that they stem out of the old Ultimate line, which kind of defeats the purpose of what the Ultimate line was to begin with, which was a completely clean slate.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think a lot of why I'm not as into Marvel books right now. I like Thor very much. I love the new Daredevil run so much. But I feel like they're not. I've learned more and more how smart and important a reset can be for serialized media, right? And DC has been doing a really smart thing since Marie Chavins took over, is they've rebooted everything, but it's been like a nudge, a gentle nudge. Yeah. And, you know, pretty soon you've just arrived back square. And you don't feel like you have a lot of baggage to get through. And you don't feel like you have too many characters who are derivative of other characters or like kind of cute gimmicks. You know, because listen, like, again, I want to look at a comic book shelf and go like, this is not for me. This is for the kids. I want that to happen. But I also want to be able to look at this and say, okay, maybe it's for the kids, but at least it needs to make sense. You know, it needs to feel accessible. It needs to feel like, you know, you could get enough character in there and enough story, but also it's not so convoluted that you scare new people off. And so I think that's kind of where we're getting at, is I think it's gotten to be more of that. I would love to see, as a reader, you know, I would love to see more books like the Absolute books that are completely new and different, and they are their own thing, and they're great for it. You know,
let's see what Marvel does with Midnight. The Midnight stuff that's coming up.
I'm curious.
They've got very talented people. Philip is a good friend. Philip Kennedy Johnson. I think he's done wonderful work on Hulk. I love all of his DC work. His Batman and Superman work has been exceptional, even during Future State, as weirdly a lot of misfires in Future State, but there were also a lot of interesting ideas. Even DCU, that period before Rebirth, there was a lot of inventive ideas, but you know, again,
but you know what? Ideas don't make a good story, and you know, it's where.
Yes.
To me, like the Absolutes are really good stories.
Incredible stories. Yes.
You know, and so I'm curious about the Midnight thing, but you know, I also have not, X-Men has not appealed to me in a long time. X-Men 97.
We were just talking about it last night. It's incredible. Absolutely,
yeah, it's so great because it handles a lot of baggage, but it does it in a really smart way. But there was something in the 90s with X-Men that I don't feel like they do now. Is it used to be like we didn't have too many characters all at once, and you always knew, like, okay, you didn't know where everyone was. Like Forge would go away and you wouldn't see Forge for like 2 years, but when Forge came back, A, it was cool because we've got Forge back, but B, you could also do things that happened between panels to make Forge maybe more interesting or work for the story. You know, we only had a handful of books. And I feel like not only has it just gotten spread so thin, but it's also made it really hard to feel like you can kind of come in and pick up, just kind of pull on that thread and stay with it.
But Midnight isn't just about the X-Men. I mean, they are doing Spider-Man, and right now I'm
the whole
MCU. Yeah, and again, there's good, there's good writers behind it. I mean,
you're kind of looking like the head from Pee-wee's Playhouse. That's what I've been trying to place it, but you're just floating in stars.
I was saying too that when I do it this way, I'm like, and again, here's an old reference. If you watched I Spy at the very beginning, they would have like teases of what was going to be in the episode, and it was just Robert Culp's eyes over
it's like
the
a Jack Kirby, extreme close-up dramatic panel. Just like
I said. I mean, I love this camera. I had to get it because when I try to zoom with my my laptop, the camera's shit. It looks okay on screen, but I also this picks up things, and then I can have this fake wallpaper behind me, and when it's properly lined up as it was at the beginning of the thing, it looks good. But now it's coming at you. It's
this is the corner of the office, so
it's you got a nice. I was telling you, man, I got to clean my floors so I can reposition myself behind all my or in front of all my framed comic book. Some of my framed comic book.
I share my office with my 9-year-old. All of the Transformers are in here, and so it's Transformers and Star Wars right now, all over the place, and it is an absolute disaster.
But there you go, isn't it? Like, did you take your son to Masters of the Universe?
Yeah.
Not that he had. And what did he think of it?
He thought it was a scam because there wasn't enough Battle Cat.
Oh,
he really wanted Battle Cat, and there's hardly any. And I'm kind of with him. I was a little pissed we didn't get more Battle Cat. He liked it okay. I enjoyed it.
I thought it was amazing, and also I was too old to really get into He-Man. I respected it, but as I said, I was trying to have sex then because I was old. I was of age, and I was out pursuing girls. I was not watching Thundercats or Transformers or He-Man.
You weren't watching like He-Man with his page boy haircut and furry underwear and rippling muscles.
No, but
that come hither look he gives to the camera every episode.
But the wink and everything, and well, same thing with G.I. Joe, knowing it's half the battle, all that nonsense. Which again, it was forced on them because the parent groups really shit on cartoons, and now there's got to be a lesson. Fuck you. How about just entertaining the kids? Just relax. But anyway, regardless, I knew enough. I was delighted by He-Man. I thought it was a lot of fun, but it is interesting to see what IPs that go back to our childhood that survive, and the others that they try and don't connect with the young audience. And I think that's very interesting.
This is the interesting thing about He-Man, though, is, and again, you can never really believe corporate, statements, but Amazon is basically being like, hey, we're fine. I mean, only 4% of the audience was under, 12. I really think they were aiming for people our age because we're the ones who pay for Prime.
Yeah.
And so they're not looking at it as a huge loss because their model is that we're going to make more on streaming and digital.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
yes.
I think that's a very smart way to go if that's really what they're going for.
Well, and again, it depends on the company and it depends on their intent, because now you've got people in charge of Paramount, the Ellisons, who are like, no, the box office and the movie theaters are still important. I loved that they're with Top Gun Maverick, that they're like, no, we're not going to rush that to streaming. This is a great movie that you got to see on the big screen.
But I think a lot of that was probably also Tom Cruise, who is, frankly, I think I cannot wait to see Digger. I think he is one of the smartest people in Hollywood, one of the greatest entertainers and producers. And I got to say, man, Top Gun Maverick was great.
Yeah.
I could not get over what a wonderful movie it was. But I mean, we're in a point where, we have so many different forms of media, and we're also in a capitalist society, there's a lot I can say about that, but it's how can we make it, how can these things be profitable? I personally think I enjoyed Masters of the Universe a lot. I think it could have been trimmed down a little bit. I feel like the toxic masculinity message didn't need to be stated 3 times. I think giving us one, because America Ferrera gives that wonderful speech in Barbie, and it's effective because it was once. It was that one, and also because of her. I mean, obviously she's brilliant. But again, it's like, I don't know. Why they haven't made a G.I. Joe TV show is beyond me. I mean, it would be a hell of a lot more affordable than some of the other stuff they're doing.
I would say the same thing about
huge.
I would say the same thing, and Amazon owns the rights. They've been dicking around with Stargate and maybe bringing it back, maybe not. And they just pulled the plug on Martin Garrow's attempt to bring it back as a TV show. And I was thinking the same thing about Stargate today, where I'm like, okay, there's a reasonably budgeted, cool sci-fi idea that you can do on a television scale. Star Trek's failures to not get a new audience, it's because it's so goddamn expensive. And as I always point out, shit writing.
Well, shit writing. Look at what happened with Doctor Who.
Oh my God.
Came in and it just got, and there were like, look, I enjoyed so much of those 2 seasons.
Really?
Shuti Gatwa is my boy's doctor.
It's not his fault, but I was not crazy about the writing. I got to be honest.
But I wasn't crazy about the season finales, but there were certain key episodes that I thought were fantastic.
A couple.
AMC, what they're doing with Vampire Lestat is through the roof good. And what they did with Walking Dead, which I haven't watched, but I know they kept it going for a while.
Right, there's a reason it did,
yeah, and they're rumored for Doctor Who, which I think would be amazing.
Yeah, well, I hope they end up becoming the partner. It's we'll see what happens.
But the point I'm trying to get to is Doctor Who always made it on really great writing and really great performances, even when the Peter Davison episodes, because I've been getting all of the Blu-ray sets. I love them.
Sure.
And I know, like, I was on an AMC show for about a season, and I came back a couple of times. I was just an extra, but I was on Turn, which filmed not far from here. So you can Where's Waldo me, and I know with the 4th episode you can see me. I'm holding a shovel, so I'm easier to spot.
Oh, that's great, man.
Someone takes it from me, but I know those are modest productions. It wasn't huge.
But the writing.
Well, I thought the writing was shit. I mean, I couldn't.
Okay.
I couldn't watch the show. I mean, I just, the cast was pretty great for the most part, and the production was wonderful. But I didn't like the script.
My dear friend Chris Cantwell, who I've loved since Halt and Catch Fire, had that Death in Silver. I forget what the parent horror title is, but really great. And I mean, again, I love Chris's writing in comics and television. And
what's he written in TV?
Pardon me?
What's he written in television?
He wrote *Halt and Catch Fire*, which, if you don't remember, that was that AMC show.
Yeah, I know.
Like the computer age. That's like, I mean, literally, and I'm so proud of him that it got. I mean, it's very respected by critics because the writing was amazing. And I mean, so yeah, I mean, but yeah, he's doing this *Death in Silver* horror miniseries. Great cast.
Nice.
It's wonderful. And also a couple other things that I know he's developing. And meanwhile, killing it at Marvel, killing it at DC when he does his comic, killing it at IDW with superior Star Trek stories than this idiot Kurtzman who has crapped on Star Trek for 10 years. Goodbye. I don't want Star Trek Year One. You are not capable of, and the people under you are not capable of writing quality Star Trek that moved forward. Your nostalgia sucks. So and you've proven with Discovery that you can't write good. The only things that were good about New Trek, if I may, real fast, my rant, and I know I'm going on, but Prodigy and Lower Decks, and even Lower Decks took a little while, I think, to get up to speed. Prodigy was amazing. They made it for Nickelodeon, and it was supposed to be like, all right, kids can be introduced to Star Trek. but they left the Habermans alone and their writers, and they wrote quality, forward-thinking Star Trek. But the live-action stuff was shit, and it's time to go. I'm going to watch Strange New Worlds because I'm like grandma. Those are my stories. I got to watch it. I've been watching it since the original series was in syndication in the early 60s. And I'm like, I've got to watch it. It's Star Trek. It's my thing. But it's shit. And it's like, you got to go, man. You are not.
Yeah, I stopped it with season 2. I just lost interest. I mean, I loved season 1, but because I did like that it went back to socially relevant Star Trek, but they mixed it up enough. I think I watched all of season 2 and I didn't start on 3. I don't have Paramount access anymore.
Well, it was a crap season, so you didn't miss much. And I got to be honest, the musical pissed me off because I didn't think the music was fine, but Buffy waited for like 6 seasons. I'm like, you guys are too new on the block. And I realize the television model is not the 20 episode seasons anymore for most shows. But that said, it's like, you need to write more Star Trek before you give us gimmicks. And season 3 was like half of the shows were gimmicks and the other half were not that great. And it's, they're not, I don't trust them. Even this coming season, like, we learned our lesson. BS, because it was already written and shot before we saw season 3.
Right.
And they were in post-production and people were complaining about what we got in season 3. So I hope for the best. Every week I'm like, maybe I'll like this episode.
You know what?
I'm disappointed.
I do this really funny thing, John, where if something I love is no longer something I love, I just stop watching it.
Yeah, well, you're smart. You see, you're a normal person.
And a lot of it for me too is that because I have a 9-year-old.
Sure.
And I work like probably the equivalent of I'd say at least 2 full-time jobs between Kickstarter, work, and
I know you do.
writing.
Yeah, I know you do. You got a lot of heavy lifting.
I have to be really, really like what I watch. Yeah. So if I'm just not feeling it, it's like when The Acolyte came out, I watched the first 5 minutes of an episode. I'm like, this just doesn't look good.
Crap.
I'm not going to watch anymore. And I know a lot of the discourse around it was very toxic because it's like, well, if you don't like it, you're misogynist. There are some misogynistic people,
of course,
but also like you've got to be able to step away and critically decide if you like it or not. And my decision was I didn't think it looked good. Same with the Masters of the Universe cartoon that Kevin Smith did on Netflix. I just didn't like it. So I'm like,
and I actually like that.
I did not like it. So it's really.
But honestly, man, that I like, and forgive me because I can't think of a better word.
Yeah.
I like the challenge of watching this stuff with a hopefully responsible, critical eye. And I want to be a voice out there that's like, hey, I want good quality sci-fi and nerd culture programming, but you as the provider have a responsibility to write well. And it can't just be, yay, we're all inclusive and every sexual orientation is being represented. That's great. That's step 1. And you've got an entire board game to get through. And you're patting yourself on the back for, well, we've got, a diverse cast. Wonderful. What are you doing with that diverse cast? We're writing shit stories. Enjoy it because, again, mission accomplished. We have people, we have women, we have strong people of color, we have strong people of different orientation, and all of that is wonderful, but it's only the first step, and they think that, again, mission accomplished. I'm sorry, and I don't mind walking that tightrope. I have yet to really been called a misogynist or a racist with my negative thoughts on some of these shows because I think I'm careful with my.
You know what? I'm going to say one of the things that, because I do speak with students about media a lot, and I always value their perspective.
Sure.
And I feel the best, because everything being put out is basically, it's a franchise at this point, right? So it's content. And when you have the type of movies and TV, the production that can be made now with computers and less time and less budget than they used to back when it was practical, you lose a sense of craft with it. These things are no longer crafted, they're created, they're put out. And I think that shows, especially if you see like The Mandalorian going from being an incredible first season to kind of like that. And it's more like, let's get this stuff out. Now, what I love about Doctor Who, again, I have a boy who's 9, and he has an uncle who's gay and married to another man.
Cool.
And so, we're pretty, and he's been around a lot of like students who are LGBTQ and so forth. But what I love about Doctor Who with Ncuti Gatwa's run is that the Doctor's he's queer, and he falls in love with a man, and that's it. That's it. They're not like making a point about, they're not explaining. It's like, that's just who it is. And what I loved about that is that it invited conversations with my son. It's like, oh, he's kissing another boy. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Totally fine. There are people who also love other people who, look like them or look differently, or, men can love men and women can love women. And so, and so we can have those conversations. So I feel like, for me, at least as a critic, is that I love it when there is inclusion and it's done in a way that is, if it's a period piece, it understands the context of the era, depending on the audience. Like if it's meant to be mature and, you have it set in the 40s, like I think I really liked Spider Noir. I haven't finished it, but
amazing.
I like what I've seen. I need to get back on that horse.
The best non-Tom Holland Sony production they've ever made, ever.
It's good so far. But what I also really like is when it invites conversation on the sofa, and you can have those discussions, because guess what? When you meet people who are different, whether it's sexual orientation or racial difference, what have you, they are not going to stand there and explain that. It's just who they are. And I feel like that's a better way to model, learning more about someone, even though they are very different from us. And personally, that's so I'm very thoughtful about these things, because I do want my son growing up, being
accepted, sure.
Well, and open-minded, and also understanding that, guess what? Someone who's from a different place than you are, they're going to see things differently because of their background. And the smartest thing we can ever do, especially as white people, is we can listen, and we can acknowledge and appreciate, and we can force ourselves to grow even further. So
I agree with all that, but again, my issue with Doctor Who was, much like you were saying about He-Man, the toxic males were the bad guys always.
Well, and I didn't mind.
If I may finish, because the other thing that I didn't like, no, I just want to finish my thought. Russell Davies, having done so much great work as he did in his first run, there were so many things I didn't like. Another thing that he did that I found a problem with, and I understood the intent behind it, but changing Davros from a character in a wheelchair to a humanoid that didn't have that issue, because as Russell said, and he's on the record saying this, well, I think it's a bad image for physically challenged people. And it's like, excuse me, I understand that, but go back to Dr. Strangelove in the chair. There are bad people that are physically challenged. And also they had the little person that worked for UNIT that was in a chair. Yeah. So it's like, you can have both. Why are you doing this change?
When did Davros show up?
There was a short that he made where they screwed with the timeline.
Right.
All of a sudden, Davros is just another humanoid. And again,
I didn't think it was Davros, but yeah.
They're going to, and it's really the BBC in general. Yeah. I understand the intent, and I appreciate that we want more diverse representation. That is wonderful. I am a bleeding heart liberal from the moment I was politically aware, and I am not ashamed to show that political stripe.
Yeah.
That said, I do tire when the misogynist white guy is always the bad guy. And it's like,
Right.
you really need to balance things. I always loved Star Trek Voyager
Right.
because you had strong women and you had strong men, and you had strong men of color along with the strong white guys as well that were all the heroes. And it's like, that's why I'm hoping the Ellisons, with their changes and whoever is in charge of Star Trek moving forward, goes back to when it was more inclusive for everyone. And I feel like when the agenda is leading your narrative, and story is sacrificed because of it, you're kind of failing.
Well, this is the thing. I don't think it's the story you necessarily like as an audience member or critic. I will say with Doctor Who, I was disappointed because Russell T. Davies did some really amazing work after he did It's a Sin. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Oh my God, it's incredible. It's about LGBTQ youth in England in the early 80s.
It's a brilliant writer. Brilliant writer.
Day by Day, I think it's called. I couldn't finish. It was just crushing.
Okay.
But I felt like his Who being, it felt lazy to go back to his era from 20 years ago.
Oh, I agree with that.
The show in itself is about a reset. I think that, and I think that Moffat did it really well when with Smith, and then when he recast him with
all three of them. All the Tennant years that he did, the Smith years and the Capaldi years were great.
But I think the problem with this last 2 seasons of Who was it got too precious.
Yes.
And I think that it and again, it kills me because I love Shuti was the Doctor. I think he was such an amazing, inspired choice. But I am fine with it being in stasis for about 5 years until the time is a little more right. Kind of like King Arthur under the Mound,
I hope we don't have to wait that long, but I hear what you're saying, and it does need some space, just like Star Trek. Although we'll see what the announcements are in San Diego regarding Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm not too crazy about the Ellisons, to be honest, at all.
I understand. Well, honestly, man, because there we go. Now I'm back. And I know Carrie is like, she's like, the camera's killing me, and I know, man. But and real fast,
ho, man.
I am Jambi. The Great Devlin says, if something you love is no longer something you love, I stop watching. Might be the wisest statement of 2026. I hear you, man, and I agree. The one thing I will say about the Ellisons, though, they gave Taylor Sheridan a platform, and it's succeeding. And honestly, man, you must read the tea leaves if you are a studio and saying what is clicking and what isn't. And I think there's a way to do both. And that's what Star Trek used to do during the 80s and 90s. As things got more progressive, they were more accepting. So I am told by the people that are a little more in the know that especially Dave Ellison loves Star Trek. And he loves that 80s, 90s Star Trek. And I think they could do that vibe without having to go retro, but also having more diverse characters. I loved the Quantum Leap that NBC did, and I wish it was on Peacock because I think it would have gotten a longer life on Peacock, frankly.
Oh, the newer one?
Yeah, with Ben Rabb. Ben Rabb, great comic book writer. I thought it was great. The one mistake I think there was they tied to the Scott Bakula mythos without Scott Bakula. So it's kind of waiting for Godot. And it's just like, they kept like teasing the ideas of Sam Beckett and that legacy. And it's like, all right, it doesn't have to be a regular. Have him show up in an episode and like, all right, he's unstuck in time. Go ahead.
But, you're talking about 80s, 90s Star Trek. The difference is they weren't rebooting stuff back then. And so when I think for serialized comics, it's really important to do a reboot every once in a while. But I also feel like we had Next Generation, which was brilliant because it was, I didn't know much about the original series when Next Gen came on.
You didn't need to.
And it made me, but you didn't need to, but then it made you want to learn more.
Okay.
You know, the films at the same time were still running, but you could still go see Star Trek 6 and still get Star Trek Next Generation. And, you know, it's really like, it was a different time because those things were harder to produce. They took more time. They were more expensive to produce, so you didn't have as much of it, and they weren't as popular. And so now I feel like the tendency is to just like what Lucas or Disney did with Star Wars. The best Star Wars, I think, other than Andor and Rogue One, has been the video games because they're crafted. The Jedi games are amazing. I love those. That to me is much better than all of these other shows that they just threw out. All of those Marvel shows, I mean, how would we look at all of the post-Endgame MCU if we didn't have all of those shows to dig through? That's why, like, I haven't watched Ironheart. I'm like,
I understand.
I'm sure it's okay, but I'm like, I don't have 6 hours of my life to spend on something that's okay. And now, you know,
I was going to say that with Marvel too. Yeah, they like, I love Catherine Hahn, but nobody was asking for an Agatha TV series. And it's like, you know, and it was too much product that was just thrown out there. And you know, I liked She-Hulk. I liked She-Hulk. I thought
She-Hulk was great. Yeah.
I did too. I mean, that's what I'm saying, man. So some of this stuff I not only accepted, I genuinely enjoyed, but there was just so much of a glut of it. And again, studios got greedy. They wanted, they're all about streaming. They forgot about, you know, studios. And we all understood during COVID. That's fine. The writer's strike and the actors' strikes didn't help, obviously, and that slowed production down. But no, again, the fact that Doomsday and Secret Wars, they're going back to Endgame shit. Because again,
why did we waste our time watching mediocre movies? You know, I mean, really, like, so for me, it's like what your Bonehead should have done. It's just after Endgame, just do like the Ultimate Universe, do those, and then have them cross over if you want to. But it's kind of my biggest, and this is an issue I've had with a lot of the legacy heroes, is there's no sense of permanence with Sam as Cap. And for me, I would truly love to see, kind of like when Wally was the Flash back in '86. Barry was gone.
He was the only Flash.
That was the belief for years.
He was dead, and he was dead for a long time. Absolutely.
Yeah, and
20
so
years. 20 years, everybody.
Yeah. It's, you know, but it's hard for me to feel invested. I really wanted Sam Wilson to be Cap.
Well, I really wanted Sam Wilson, and he can be an important character.
Yeah.
But yet, to make him Captain America was a mistake. I think it was a mistake. And again, waiting for Godot, because I just, again, and well, it's as evidence, we'll see how they negotiate that with Doomsday and Secret Wars.
Who knows? I'm probably not seeing them opening day. I mean, I'll probably wait a week. I'm kind of at the point.
They're also kind of, I'm sorry, but real fast, they're kind of shitty about adding these scenes to Endgame. And it's like, man, you guys are really greedy. I mean, it's like, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I left Fantastic Four, and I was, I didn't get to see it with everyone else at GalaxyCon when it opened, because I had committed to seeing it like with someone else the next night, which I think was Friday night. And I have a friend who, you know, was leaving to see it, and I'm like, he's like, let me know what you think of it. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I came back, I'm like, dude, it is so mediocre. He's like, I know, you know, and it's a movie made by committee. And, but again, it comes down to like the product. This is all a product. And I think that if we had the days, like I show students Tim Burton's Batman, which they've never seen. or Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, or Dick Donner's Superman from 1978.
Sure.
I'm like, these directors were given carte blanche to develop these characters for film.
Yes.
They weren't beholden to some other movie or a house style.
Or we made a toy and the toy has to be in the movie as
they were free to develop it. So you got really, I think, better superhero films.
Of course you
in that from a cinematic perspective. I think what James Gunn did with Superman was really great.
I like it. I actually like Fantastic Four. I think
I was disappointed in it.
No. And again, we can disagree. That's okay. But no, unfortunately, I think Supergirl. My attitude towards Supergirl was your attitude of Fantastic Four. It was adequate, but man, being a second Gunn movie, you need better than adequate. And again, folks, I'm really sorry, but if you want a female lead, it's got to be exceptional. The movie or the TV show Alias was exceptional, especially in its first couple seasons. And it's like, holy shit, what is this? Supergirl was fine, but fine is not going to cut it because, again, there are people that will relax as I'm reclining as well and go, well, I'll watch it in a couple months when it's streaming. I don't need to watch it.
This was my problem with it. The way I described it was the highs didn't feel high enough for the lows to feel devastating. And when I heard that the studio released their cut, that kind of told me all I need to know. All of the James Gunn-like music, it felt to me like it needed to be more of a straightforward drama, or it needed to have more moments of lightness to create, because Gunn is a master of balance. And I don't feel like either Gillespie wasn't the right fit or he wasn't allowed to do the job he wanted to. I think she was so perfect as Kara. I
completely agree. Leah Peck was great.
I thought it was a good script. I just think that, again, I think that it deserved more than it got. It was good. I encourage everyone to go see it, but it was.
I agree. If you're curious, I would say go see it, and I think you'll be satisfied.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You will not be bowled over. And I got to be honest, man, the script, the female slaver storyline, completely unnecessary. Lobo as great, and I thought Momoa did a great job, but completely unnecessary. And they deviated from Tom's book in weird ways. And I won't for people who haven't seen it, I won't spoil, but it's like, that's stupid. And especially that choice. And all I'll say is it reminded me of Zack Snyder's choice with Man of Steel. That's stupid. And that's not how the Superman family acts. It isn't. And I don't mean being party girl drunk. I'm talking about the
I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. There's a thing that Robert Dam wrote about, I think in the 80s, about the fidelity argument with that adaptation, is saying it's not like the book doesn't mean it's not a good adaptation, right? Because by nature, an adaptation is to take one story and make it work for a different medium. So in this case, but I thought the storyline, the slaver aspect, was a great way to make him such a vile, despicable, terrible, awful villain that he's such a monster that it then raises more questions. I feel like Supergirl in the rear view is going to be possibly addressed in Man of Tomorrow.
Well, I have no doubt.
That's what I'm curious about. But, I really just don't think it's, so I'll judge it on its own merit as opposed to, in relation to the book. But
here, Devlin has another point here. Even exceptional sometimes isn't enough for female superheroes or related movies. Furiosa was basically an incredible superhero movie. Didn't bust the box office. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, man. I absolutely hear what you're saying. But it also did have the critical positive thing where Supergirl has been received in a very so-so, depending on the critic. It wasn't universally lauded. And again, they had the right actor, and They had the basic right story. I again, I'll disagree and say that it was despicable enough for the guy to kill Ruthie's people, and they could have just been killers rather than, oh, and by the way, and also
Right.
Supergirl, much like the television show, should be something that you can take your 10-year-old daughter to. And I don't
Right.
know if the themes in this movie were. I am not a prude. I didn't mind that Supergirl was drinking to forget her misery. That I didn't mind that. And also, I'm a massive fan of what Tom King's original.
Oh, I am too. I am too, totally.
Writer, but True Grit is a great story that you can imprint on a Supergirl story because he did, and he made it work. And this had some of that, but again, the other shit that they had in there was unnecessary. And again, I blame the writer and I blame the director.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I dug it. I also like enjoy a lot of what Snyder did, truth be told. And I feel like B versus S was where things went wrong, but I truly admire a lot of what he was trying to do storytelling wise. But as a cinematographer, there are moments for like pure cinema in some of his.
I agree with that. He's a visual
movies. He's
a visual genius, and there were moments in Batman v Superman that I liked, but only moments. And the guy, I'm guessing Zack Snyder's a vampire because he seems to be against sunny days.
Yeah,
and everything is dreary. And my God, when in Man of Steel, when Clark finally discovers the whole thing about Krypton, and he comes back to Diane Lane, and he's like, "Mom, I know who I am. I know my past." And she goes, "That's wonderful, son." And it's like, why the fuck are you crying? And no, this is a happy moment for your kid. What is wrong with this goddamn movie? And it's just,
I actually really liked Man of Steel. I liked how it was paced like a modern comic book.
That's true.
I like that they took big swings because at that point someone needed to do that with Superman. I think that was the general feeling after Returns. But I also like there's stuff about it that doesn't quite click, but I felt watching it like, okay, their heart's in the right place. This could have been handled. Maybe you could have addressed him going to Black Sun with maybe a couple lines of dialogue as to why he's not in Metropolis. But some of the things that were so absurd were not intended to be. I kind of described it as Zack Snyder, like, kind of like played a little too hard with his action figures and kind of got maybe caught up in doing a really cool fight scene, but not really thinking about, how that's going to define the character from here on out. And B versus S, I was thinking would address those issues with the destruction of Metropolis and so forth, but they totally didn't. And it was a story. I would love to read the original Chris Terrio script because I imagine it's probably really good, but it's just they kept piling stuff on.
That opening was amazing with Bruce rushing to his building in Metropolis. I thought it was great. There are moments that are great. Same with Man of Steel. I love the early stuff when Clark is, in Alaska or wherever the hell he was, and those assholes were hassling him, and he sticks their trunk in a telephone pole.
This is the thing I say about B versus S is the characters have no skin in the game. The reason Dark Knight Returns works is because these are two men who are lifelong friends fighting. You don't have that relationship in B versus S. Nope. Now, what I've always said is Bruce and Clark should have become really good buddies. And then when Bruce learns that Clark is Superman, there's that personal betrayal. And the thing that is at stake is the loss of a friendship.
Interesting.
And, and again, that's, that to me would make perfect sense. Otherwise, they're like two dude bros at a bar going like, "Come at me, bro." I'm not invested. And so I feel like kind of moving forward, like what Gunn did with Superman was he really gave you relationships and balance and characters to care about. But Gillespie's or whoever's reason for Supergirl being how it was it worked because it was kind of far out in its own thing. But it also, what didn't work was that something just wasn't there.
Well,
it didn't click or resonate the way it needed to. And I think that's sad because I really think that they wanted to make a great movie, and they made a good movie. They made a good movie. It's worth seeing. I liked it enough.
Going back to Batman versus Superman, when Bruce makes the point to Alfred, if there's even this 1% possibility that this alien cannot be trusted, that's why I've got to hunt him down. That's Lex Luthor's argument in Brian Azzarello's Man of Steel.
Yep.
And they have that. It's one of the best things Azzarello ever wrote, where Bruce and Lex are having lunch, and Lex is saying, how do we know? How do we know for sure? When does this turn? That is a Lex Luthor argument that Jesse Eisenberg should have had, but instead he was a 66 Batman broad idiot villain that was so bad. And it's what a waste of a wonderful actor. And much like Idris Elba in Star Trek Beyond, you've got a wonderful actor and you gave him a shit character.
Or Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance,
There you go.
But I think that the thing that really kills me is that Doomsday was a chance for Clark to address having killed Zod.
Okay.
Making Zod into Doomsday was, I thought, brilliant. And I had a friend point out to me, like, dude, why didn't Wonder Woman take the kryptonite spear? And it's like, oh yeah.
And then all those little interludes of the rest of the Justice League, it's like, hey, take your fucking time. You don't have to cram all this shit in there. And again, I mean, and also the Flash movie, I'm sorry, and this has nothing to do with his personal life. I never wanted to Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. I never did. It's a shame because the movie story is an interesting story, but when you had two Ezra Millers, that was twice the annoyance for me. And it's a shame because Keaton was great, and the Supergirl that they introduced was really potentially interesting as well. And also that whole thing of showing all the multiverse and all the different versions of Batman and Superman, complete fan service bullshit.
Well, where they screwed up, I think, is they should have made that the absolute last movie before Gunn came in. Because why would audiences want to go see the new Aquaman? And what I think is the real tragedy is not enough people went to see Blue Beetle. And I'm not saying it because I wrote the book on Blue Beetle, but to me, Blue Beetle is one of the best superhero movies that's been made in years. And why they couldn't hold on to it until Superman came out, shoot a few new scenes if you need to connect it, but just make it it really should have been a Gunverse movie. It would have fit into Gunverse, I think, pretty well.
And it sounded like actually, I mean, well, he was very positive about Flash as well, but it seemed like he was positive about the Blue Beetle movie.
Well, he really loves Sholo, is Jaime. He said that in statements Gunn has. And I mean, Sholo Mediera is amazing, and he's really great with an ensemble. Yeah. He has a great sense of humor, great comic timing. I am still like you've got to realize, for me, 20-something years ago, I decided I was going to do this book on the Blue Beetle. And thank God John Morrow was like, well, yeah, sure, why not? And, to get to see that character on the big screen. I mean, my work on Victor Fox is because of Blue Beetle, really.
I know.
So it's, but again, it's all the cinematic universe, I think, can also, it seems like it's becoming more of a thing where it's a liability for future movies. They've been going on, like, I know people in their 20s who haven't seen a Marvel movie. So like, I don't want to watch 50 or I don't know how many freaking movies they've made at this point. That's a big commitment to expect, which is, again, why you need to have reboots and resets.
You're right.
You need to so I'm my PhD's in media. So I've been thinking of adaptation and transmedia for a long time. And it's hard for me to enjoy the movies anymore because sometimes I'm thinking too much about that.
I agree with people that say that the heyday of the Marvel period of the 2010s is obviously over. But I also keep pointing out that much like the Western, the genre will survive. We'll just get less of it and hopefully better. This is what happened with the Western, with the glut of from the 30s through the 60s, when finally they're like, all right, enough. And I mean, but we also got the spaghetti Westerns, which were interesting. And then they kind of slowly came back in the 80s with Silverado, and then the other and the good the 310 Yuma remake and some of the other things, the True Grit remake even. So I think the superhero movie will survive, and also it's another reason why I try to broaden beyond talking about superhero movies, talking about other nerd culture things, because I think we're in a very interesting time where the opportunity is there. But as you said, they think of this stuff more as product rather than craft, and letting creative people really take the reins and make something interesting. We're getting a few of them, but they're also with a lot of still shit.
But dude, just imagine if we could get creator-owned indie superhero films, like...
Well, wouldn't it be great to take these public domain heroes that I think are good ciphers that you can imprint? And I mean, like, there's a movie from the 2010s that I've yet to see, and I keep meaning to make time for it, called All Superheroes Must Die. I forget what country it was made in. And it's definitely a low budget movie, but essentially it's like a Saw scenario involving superheroes.
Oh,
and it's like, that's intriguing. And I've watched about the first women's. It's not a perfect movie. It's not a great movie, but there are interesting things in it. And it's like, well, even when Deadpool came out, okay, there was something fresh. I keep telling my friends who are involved with the TV and films, you guys need a better Act 3 other than hero fights big CGI thing. Yeah. And it's like you need a smarter Act 3. And I don't know what the answer is. That's for you guys to do it. But I can say, like, it's like an amusement park. I've been on this ride too many times. We're getting tired of it. You're not giving us anything special, and they need to be special.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anyway, they fall in a formula because it works, right? And I think,
but to death, they beat the formula to death.
The better examples, I think. I'm gonna have to wrap it up soon because the computer's almost.
No. I so understand, man, and I was gonna try and wrap it up as well. No, we're going on hour 4, Chris. I'm not a break.
I will say real quick. I did love Thunderbolts. I loved Thunderbolts because it was very good.
Yeah.
And fun. I would love to see more stuff like that. But
and all right. Well, again, let's get back to the whole point of you being here, and that is
Show Unknown.
Do you have a launch date for the campaign?
I'm waffling between August 8th, which would be the 40th anniversary of Transformers the movie. That's a pretty special day to me. And August 15th. But the pre-launch page is up, so please go and follow it. I will be announcing it to the followers, the date to them first. It's linked on Graphic NYC. I also have thedrawnword.com, TheDrawnWord. It's linked there, and I also have some of my trading cards for sale, as well as thanks, Kari, as well as the Graphic NYC paperback. I'm also doing I did the Madman Secret Decoder. I don't know if you see it. I've been fiddling with it.
Excellent.
Mike loves this so much he asked for like more comps. I will be doing some more Madman stuff soon. They're coming down to NC Comic Con in November. So I'll be I would like to get one more campaign out before then for some more Madman swag.
Well, again, you're a machine when it comes to crowdfunding, and I'm glad you got it down to the science that it is. Come back when there's something new, because I would like to talk to you more about the mechanics of crowdfunding and what you've discovered. Yeah. But that's for another day.
Definitely.
By the way, I love these tangents, and I'm always, and in fact, just to tease tomorrow night's Word Balloon Live, my friend Sal Crivelli will be here from Comic Pop. He's got a lot of opinions as well. So if you like this kind of discussion, I'm always happy to deviate from just, hey, new book. Let's also talk about what's going on. It is summer. We're getting a lot of television and film to talk about. Sal has his opinions, and also about some of the new things like Midnight Marvel. And
I got to tell you, man, Vampire Lestat is. I cannot believe this show exists. I cannot believe it is so great. That's all I'm going to say.
Sounds good. Excellent.
All right.
Chris
Thanks
Irving,
so much, everyone. Good to
and
see you,
thank you,
John.
everyone.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Take care.
And
Bye.
thanks, everybody. Join us again. Also, tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to do a show with Russ Braun. I'm not sure if I'm going to Zoom it or live it, but of course, Russ has been doing some amazing stuff. He just wrapped up a Kickstarter with Mark Russell, but great artist. And that's another great creator conversation happening this week on Word Balloon. So until next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.